Throughout this past legislative session, one issue repeatedly demanded attention: fraud, waste, and abuse within Maine's welfare system. Despite repeated efforts by legislative Republicans to bring accountability and transparency to these programs, it became clear that the legislative majority was unwilling to seriously confront credible allegations involving the misuse of taxpayer dollars. Hello, I'm Senator Matt Harrington of York County, and I serve as the Assistant Senate Republican Leader. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Republican Vision series. Late last year, reports surfaced that a provider that billed MaineCare, not to be confused with Medicare, the federal program for senior citizens, almost $29 million between 2019 and 2024, was under inquiry by the U.S. House Oversight Committee as part of an investigation into Medicaid waste, fraud, and abuse. The Maine Department of Health and Human Services eventually suspended payments to that provider after identifying numerous billing irregularities that resulted in more than $1 million in overpayments between March 2021 and December 2022. Unfortunately, that case was not an isolated incident, and it was the beginning of a broader pattern of serious questions surrounding MaineCare program integrity. A federal audit found that Maine made over $45 million in improper payments for services provided to children diagnosed with autism. In response to inquiries from the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services about these tens of millions of dollars in payments, Governor Mills issued a defiant statement accusing federal officials of using her administration's lax control as a pretense to go after her. Let me be very clear. Under the Mills administration and one-party control in Augusta, there has been a serious lack of accountability, oversight, and leadership when it comes to protecting taxpayer funds. In fact, welfare fraud has become such a large problem, Vice President Vance came to Maine Thursday to talk about the work of the White House Task Force to eliminate fraud. In May of 2025, months before the floodgate broke, with numerous cases of improper payments and fraud, I called for the administration to investigate welfare fraud. My request fell on deaf ears. Additionally, legislative Republicans introduced numerous proposals to address these problems within the MaineCare system, including measures requiring third-party independent audits to identify fraud, waste, and abuse. Unfortunately, these proposals were rejected along party lines. MaineCare now accounts for roughly a quarter of Maine's budget and has required more than $500 million in bailouts this biennium alone. Policymakers can budget for enrollment, service costs, and utilization, but what no responsible government can do is ignore fraud. When fraud is not aggressively detected, investigated, and stopped, taxpayers are the ones left paying the bill. The Republican vision is simple. Maine people deserve accountability, transparency, and a government that takes stewardship of their tax dollars seriously. Welfare programs should be protected for those who truly need them, not weakened by waste, abuse, and mismanagement. Legislative Republicans will continue fighting for independent audits, stronger oversight, and real safeguards to protect taxpayers and preserve the integrity of programs like MaineCare. Because ignoring fraud does not make it disappear, it only makes the program more expensive. I'm Senator Matt Harrington. Thank you for listening to this week's Republican Vision series. We will keep fighting for accountability in Augusta, for responsible government, and for the Maine taxpayers who deserve better.